Well, okay, you don't like hydroxychloroquine. Do you like something else, maybe that costs more? Here's one of the things we heard that does show some hope as far as Anthony Fauci is concerned.
The data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. This is really quite important for a number of reasons, and I'll give you the data. It's highly significant. If you look at the time to recovery being shorter in the remdesivir arm, it was 11 days compared to 15 days. And that's a p-value for the scientists who are listening of 0.001. So that's something that, although a 31% improvement doesn't seem like a knockout 100%, it is a very important proof of concept, because what it has proven is that a drug can block this virus.
I mean, I want you to take this in for a second, because I think I'm about to blow your mind. Does that sound like a very different approach to a discussion about this drug compared to what we heard him say with Trump? I wanted to say it's anecdotal right now. We really don't. Hydroxychloroquine, I know the president's got a good feeling about it, but I really want to caution we should think about this. We don't know how well, I mean, honestly, and then here it's like, very promising. This is promising. This drug, remdesivir, is really showing a lot of promise. And, you know, as though, like, there's 100 studies that are just rocking it out around the world, right? I mean, clearly remdesivir, you know, must be awesome. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. I've been touting we should be in remdesivir trials, too. We should be trying everything. I want to find, you know, whatever it is that works, because once you have a treatment, even Bill Gates said, hey, you find a treatment that's 95% effective, then we don't even have to worry about a vaccine. Bill Gates, who, by the way, is telling you we're going to wait for a vaccine, and he is pretty darn sure we're never going to find a drug that can be 95% effective. Just while I'm getting a little bit off track and you get used to me following this, you do realize that Dr. Erickson and every other decent scientist in the world has already said 95% of healthy people will recover from COVID-19 with no side effects whatsoever. So wait a minute, hold on a second. 95% of people, we need a drug to be 95% effective in order to skip a vaccine, but nature itself, our bodies, our immune system, is 95% effective at killing this thing, moving on. Most of us will get a cold. Some of us, you know, maybe even more, be asymptomatic. I mean, this is what you got to start looking at here, right? But let's get back to remdesivir. So what's going on with remdesivir, right? We all have to say, oh, my God, everyone's so excited. We're hearing the news that there's this great new thing. It says, Dr. Fauci says, remdesivir trial shows drug has promise as FDA plans to announce emergency use. FDA is telling you stop using hydroxychloroquine, move over to remdesivir. All right, I want to take you through the only trial right now that we can find that's currently going on. Oh, by the way, guess who's doing the trial? NIAID, the NIH. NIAID being the specific branch right here. There it is, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. Huh, who's the head of that? Oh, wait a minute. That's Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's doing the study himself. No wonder he's so excited about it. And wonder he actually knows that a study that's going on right now is showing so much promise. He's the one heading this study. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, all right? I really want you to give him the benefit of the doubt. Remember, maybe he's not biased. Maybe he doesn't have anything to prove. Maybe, you know, having CNN, MSNBC, and everybody saying you're the hero because you were right about hydroxychloroquine has nothing to do with this. Let's take a look at this study, shall we? You can find all of this on clinicaltrials.gov. First of all, on February 21st, they laid out how the study would work. Percentage of subjects reporting each severity rating on the 7-point ordinal scale, okay? So they're going to have a 7-point scale that would lay out all we were looking at. The ordinal scale is an assessment of the clinical status of the first assessment of a given study day. The scale is as follows. One, we'll look at one category. I want to be very clear. One category is deaths. How many people died? We just heard the other study showed how many people died in the chloroquine study. Number two, hospitalized or invasive mechanical ventilation or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, ECMO. Number three, we'll look at hospitalized or non-invasive ventilation or high-flow oxygen. 4, hospitalized requiring supplemental oxygen. 5, hospitalized not requiring supplemental oxygen. 6, not hospitalized, limitation on activities. 7, not hospitalized, no limitations on activities. These are all the 7 groups in this very thorough trial they're apparently going to look at. And how many people are going to be a part of this trial? we enlisted, do we have that number? Oh, there we go. I'm sorry, it's in white. 197 subjects in each arm for a total of 394 people in this study. Now, those of you that have seen my film Vax, you remember that one of the issues that really was at the forefront of a whistleblower at the CDC named Dr. William Thompson was after they had the study design, they started manipulating and changing the study, okay? Now, that's something that is what really leads to being considered fraud. That's a fraudulent scientific study. You can't start changing the amount of people on a study. You can't start kicking people off. You can't change the groups you're looking at. That was all set ahead of time so that you don't have a bias interfering, right? We want to make sure that bias cannot change studies as they're going along. Now, I want to make this clear because I'm sure someone out there is going to try and say I didn't say it. This, on the other hand, is kind of a brand new way to do studies, right? This is what we call an adaptive study. We don't want to be locked in on, what we determined up front. We don't want to get in the trouble that Dr. William Thompson got into. But to be clear, an adaptive study is really just designed to, if you see that the drug is having so much success, then maybe you'll want to just bail out of having some saline control group and start, moving them into so that they're not, wasting their lives and being put in danger. We know it works. Let's move them into the group that gets the drug. Or maybe we want to say, geez, we're having such success here, we should test hydrochloroquine against it. They want to be able to change what the study can do, all right? So it's an adaptive study. But with all of that caveat in place, remember that, those would be substantial changes to the study. I want to show you the changes that have happened to this study being run by Dr. Anthony Fauci. Take a look at this. Oh, by the way, have we talked about the placebo group? Right, here we go. The placebo. Now, Dr. Fauci's been known to be bragging that this is a really great gold standard placebo study, something that I've been asking for in vaccines from the moment I stepped into this. NIH clinical trial of Remdesivir to treat COVID-19 begins. We urgently need a safe and effective treatment for COVID-19. Although Remdesivir has been administered to some patients with COVID-19, we do not have solid data to indicate it can improve clinical outcomes, said NIAID Director and U.S. Coronavirus Task Force member Anthony S. Fauci, MD. A randomized placebo-controlled trial is the gold standard for determining if an experimental treatment can benefit patients. Read that again because I really want you to start locking your head around this because I'm going to talk about it a lot over the next several months as they try to avoid this process with a vaccine. A randomized, placebo-controlled trial is the gold standard for determining if an experimental treatment can benefit patients. By the way, no placebo being used right now in the NIH version of the vaccine that's under trial. No placebo group. All right? I just want to point that out. So they're not using the gold standard there, but let's stick with Remdesivir. Here they are. Or are they? I want you to look at this. Placebo. Is it a saline injection, so the people have no effect whatsoever? No, the supply matching placebo is a lyophilized formulation, is identical in physical appearance to the active lyophilized formulation and contains the same inactive ingredients. The drug Remdesivir is a single diastereomers. Is this where I got it? All right. Okay, so let's go to the non-active ingredients. What are they talking about? We're looking at the drug Remdesivir. In addition to the active ingredients, the lyophilized formulation of Remdesivir contains the following inactive ingredients: water, sulfobutyl ether beta-cyclodextrin sodium, SBECD, and hydrochloric acid and/or sodium chloride. All right, I want you to look at those last two words, sodium hydroxide. I'm sorry. I have no idea what that SBECD does, but that other one, those other two, sodium hydrochloride, can I see it again? Let me read it. All right. Hydrochloric acid and/or sodium hydroxide. These are things that I'm pretty sure when I've watched, episodes of The Sopranos, this is what they fill like a bathtub with to dissolve the people they've cut into pieces. It's an incredible acid, right? So here's the point. Why didn't they just give them a saline injection, right? I mean, you're giving them a known toxic poison in the placebo group. I mean, it's really weird. We've talked about this in vaccines. Well, now they're doing it in a drug trial. It makes absolutely no sense. You need to be able to say, as they did in that really bad hydroxychloroquine study, more people died that got this drug than those that didn't get anything, right? Well, here they're going to try and say that, well, then our placebo group, but your placebo group was giving a toxic chemical. And I also want you to ask yourself about the legal or moral ramifications of that. Because, by the way, the definition of a placebo is supposed to be something that has no effect on the human body, so that we have a pure safety control group. We know that sodium chloride, did I get that right this time? Sodium hydroxide, okay, tongue twisters. We know that sodium hydroxide is not having no effect on your body. It's definitely having an effect on your body, and that's in your control group, all right? So all these things we've laid out. Now let's look at what happens with this trial. So we start out with, we had 394 patients, right? Well, all of a sudden, when we look at March 20th, it's about a month later, all of a sudden they decided to increase the amount of patients on both sides. They're now changing the amount of people from the 197 to 220 on both sides for a total of 440 people involved in the trial. We have no idea why that would be the case, but it's odd. Then you look at the placebo, group, and here they're saying, during the, what am I looking at here? Why hospitalized? Oh, okay, here we go. On April 20th, we threw this together the last minute. But stick with me, it's really brilliant, if I can keep it together. April 20th now, okay? Sometime later, they increased it again to 286 study participants in each side. So now we're up in, 500, over 500 people have been added. But here's what is interesting. There seems to be a problem. Now the study is bigger than we ever planned on it being with this group. And so what do they say? You know what? If we don't have enough of our fake placebo that's got that toxic chemical in it, then and only then you may have to use alternatively a matching placebo of normal saline of equal volume may be given if there are limitations on placebo supplies. I mean, isn't that outrageous? I mean, why haven't we been using saline from the beginning? And now that the study, for whatever reason, is bloating and getting bigger and bigger, now we're saying, oh, you know what? On those last few, if we run out of it, go ahead to saline. Really, really strange stuff here. You are clearly manipulating your control group by giving them a poison. And you are obviously trying to do something by growing the group. Remember, even though this is an adaptive study, they didn't end the control group. They haven't changed the control to, another drug because they're seeing so much success. I'm going to speculate here. I'm going to speculate that maybe the effect is so small that it's not statistically significant. They're seeing maybe a little bit better outcome from Remdesivir, but they'll have to say it was statistically insignificant. The only way you'd get around that is by adding more people to study and adding more people to study. I'm just guessing here. Otherwise, it makes no sense. What are you going to see in 580 people that you didn't see in the 440? Well, then something really odd changes. They keep growing the numbers, by the way, and it ends up getting to about 800 people. This study keeps bloating, but here's what I want to point out to you that was really weird. Remember when there was 7 categories we were going to look at? Well, guess what happens to those categories in the middle of the study? We're not bringing in new drugs, new comparators. They changed the categories. Look at this. All of a sudden, on April 20th, they cut the whole group of 7 we're going to look at, right? Now all we're going to look at is number 1, 3, hospitalized, not requiring supplemental oxygen. 2, not hospitalized, limitation on activities and/or requiring home oxygen. And 3, not hospitalized, no limitations on activities. You might say, okay, what's the big deal? Well, I would say one of the big deals is you no longer have a category for death. You no longer are going to say one of the major things we're looking at is death. How is that the case? Isn't that the entire point? We want to know if this drug keeps people from dying, and the one category you removed is death. I don't know what to tell you, folks. I don't know what to tell you. This is who is running all of the medical decisions for the United States of America. This is his own personal study, right? And by the way, I'm not the only one that had a problem with that. In fact, what tipped us off to even look at clinicaltrials.gov was the virologist, Dr. Didier Raoult in France, who again is jumping up and down saying, what kind of study is this? And why did you just? Here he points it out. Could Anthony Fauci explain why the investigators of the NIAID Remdesivir trial did change the primary outcome during the course of the project, April 16th, removing death from primary outcome is a surprising decision. You're right about that, Didier. You're right. I think that is a surprising decision. And what would make them make that kind of decision? I mean, could it be that there were other studies around the world that maybe weren't doing what they needed to do or showing what they needed to show? Actually, there was. The WHO accidentally, this is one. This is actually a different study. The Lancet. Remdesivir in adults with severe COVID-19, a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled multi-center trial. What did it find out? Interpretation. In this study of adult patients admitted to hospital for severe COVID-19, remdesivir was not associated with statistically significant clinical benefits. Now, then we have this. Gilead tumbles after latest data leak on virus drug trials, April 23rd. So this is all happening, right? This is happening while Fauci's in the middle of his study. You have the Lancet publishing what's going on. But then the WHO leaks out a trial that's not even finished. In China, it's going on. And that was that the headline we were just looking at? Gilead's now tumbling because it is showing that you have what appears to be maybe an increased rate. Gilead Inc. shares were whipsawed for the second time in a week after a summary of a Chinese trial of its COVID-19 drug appeared to show that it was a failure. The World Health Organization, which has been helping coordinate the global response to the virus, said it accidentally posted the results on a website that helps track therapies for the disease. Oh, whoops, we showed you it's a failure. Sorry about that. Gilead, the summary was quickly removed, but details of the post were reported by the Financial Times and posted by the publication Stat. They showed that the drug wasn't associated with patients getting better more quickly, and 13.9% of patients getting the drug died, versus 12.8% getting standard care. So more people died. The study in question was one of two main trials in China for remdesivir and looked at patients with severe cases of COVID-19. This group was considered one of the hardest to treat with antiviral drugs, since by the time the disease becomes advanced, there may already be significant lung damage. In addition, the immune system may spin out of control in some patients with advanced disease, a process that antivirals like the Gilead drug won't help with. Now, Gilead, in its statement, said the trends in the data suggest a potential benefit for remdesivir, particularly among patients treated early. The company said that the full data are being submitted for review and publication. In a follow-up statement, the company said the data add to a growing but still inclusive body of evidence for remdesivir. It expects full results from the other two trials, larger studies, at the end of May. So what it's saying is, our other trials that are going on, we expect to get a better outcome. We're hoping for a better outcome than this one, which was described as a complete and total failure. By the way, it looks like one of those other twos is already gone. As I told you, they canceled this trial that is being reported right here that was a total failure, probably because they realized we're killing people, we need to just stop this trial. The other trial, which had people starting the treatment earlier, it's been suspended. So it looks like, as far as we can tell, it might be wrong, that the only trial everyone's counting on now for remdesivir is being done by Anthony Fauci himself. But let me point something out, right? One of the complaints about how that study was being done, it was only on the severe patients who are most likely going to die anyway, and so it wasn't really fair to remdesivir. Interesting why that is what we report when it's remdesivir, but when that's the exact same case in the hydroxychloroquine trial, we look the other way. I mean, honestly, folks, this is seriously suspect, isn't it? You're already manipulating a placebo group, and then you know these other trials are not turning out right. Is that why they start bolstering their mouths? Remember, they use the term statistically insignificant in one of it in the Lancet, saying it was statistically insignificant if there was a benefit at all. Well, what did I say? Why would you start adding more people? To try and see if you can add in and get enough statistical significance. All I'm saying is I think it's clear that there may be some bias going on. Hold on, I'm being told something. All right. Right, and so what it really lets us know is that Gilead, a pharmaceutical company, and NIH, who works really closely and owns its own patents to things, is involved in what appears to be helping pharmaceutical companies. Is it possible that remdesivir is just being put forward because you can charge more money? Maybe. Maybe that's the case. And we all know this is a problem with cancer therapies, right? If it ends up being a vitamin, nobody can make any money. You're never going to hear about it. Nobody's going to spend millions of dollars on trials. Is that why they're trying to bury hydroxychloroquine, along with the fact that it's going to make Donald Trump look really bad? That's another added benefit, right? So number one, we can't charge for it. Number two, it's going to make Donald Trump look really bad. And for those of us that are on CNN and MSNBC and, all the channels that are really funded in most part by the pharmaceutical industry, it makes us all look good. I'm going to throw out one more theory just because it's really odd when you look at this. You see, when you look at all the hydroxychloroquine studies all around the world, DDA-Ryut 1,000, 99% success rate. You had a doctor in New York, I'm forgetting his name right now, who had 800 people he treated. Zelenko had 800 people treated and said nearly 100% success rate. Studies in China showed that hydroxychloroquine was having a nearly 100% success rate. So you have the opposite, right? What you have is successful trials everywhere, but the one that Fauci cares about and the FDA care about that was really done poorly by the VA on a very specific population that were already dying, we're going to make that erase all the great studies everywhere else. Now we reverse the thing, right? And now we're going to try and hide all of the studies around the world. They're showing that Remdesivir has almost no effect whatsoever and may actually kill more people. We're not sure, but it's statistically insignificant in a Lancet, a published study. And we're going to try and override those bad studies with the one being done by who? Dr. Anthony Fauci. And I was asking myself this, and here, by the way, I show you facts, right? I hope you know the difference between when we're showing you things from a trial and then when we talk about theories. I have a little theory here. It's, it may not be true, but when we're thinking about bias, remember how badly they want a vaccine, right? Anthony Fauci keeps saying we really won't see normal life till we have a vaccine. I've talked about the vaccine unicorn. WHO saying you're not going to have a normal life till you have a vaccine. Everywhere Bill Gates goes, he says you're not going to have a normal life until we have a vaccine. Which made me think, well, then why would they be keen on Remdesivir? I mean, why are they going? I've been sort of speculating that they really want this vaccine. And a great treatment like hydroxychloroquine, if it's successful, erases the need for it, right? If you can cure that, 5% that are going to be severe and the 0.1 to 0.3% that may actually die, if you can cure them with hydroxychloroquine, the vaccine's over. What if you recognize that there's a drug that, and remember what Bill Gates said, right? Show me a drug that's 95% effective, and then maybe then we can say that we don't need a vaccine, as though he knows something, right? Does he know that Remdesivir is actually a really crappy drug? Is it possible? Is it just possible that while we're hearing records all around the world of 99% effectiveness rate with hydroxychloroquine, that what Anthony Fauci is so excited about in this trial is this may have like a 50% success rate? We could maybe even cure, like if we put enough people in trial, we can take a statistically insignificant infinitesimal gain and make it seem like it's okay. Well, 30% of people were healed. Now remember, it's only good enough. We're going to have to wait for the vaccine to really protect ourselves. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of the Highwire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.